Finding the server, and I think we're up. Yep, we're up. We're on. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Right, so, yep. I can hear you guys. Mark and Elizabeth have muted themselves for now. That's fine. They probably just don't want to talk about what we're going to end up having to do to thank Dave for boosting our Discord server. Money, maybe. I don't know.
No. Don't worry. I said don't worry about it, because it was on our Saturday night game server, so
Right.
I've just transferred it.
Haha! We rank better than they do. We're more important. Gotcha.
I also thought it'd help.
Thank you. Much appreciated. It looks like Chris P just tried to sign on. I don't know if he had a problem there. Everything alright with Chris, Connie? Is he having trouble?
I think he's just trying now. I had issues now as well.
Hello?
Okay. Hello!
Hello, yeah, sorry, Discord was taking a very long time.
So, there you go, Elizabeth. It's not just you having problems with Discord. Although yours has got more to do with your computer rather than anything else, apparently. So, yes, the entire crew. Good lordy lorks. And live long and prosper to you too, Suitable Substrate. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see then. 2, 4, 6, 8. Who do we appreciate? 12. Star Trek. Right, so let's just first confirm that everybody who needs to be is signed into Foundry. Not yet. Okay. And those who can or want to be, there's also the link for Sirenscape if you want to listen in to the ambient sounds and music that I've got going on. Those of you who are already signed in to Foundry should, I hope, hear the familiar ship rumble. We've got folks finalising their entry into Foundry. Awesome source. Cool beans.
This is new. Star Trek Adventures Compendia.
Yes, so now that everybody's here, that is a brief copyright warning that you will get when you sign in. Don't worry about it. What that's all about appears to be that I found some extra add-ons for this, and because the Star Trek Compendia that I found draws upon content found in the core rulebook, it is, of course, stuff that's co-held by, Paramount and by Modiphius Entertainment, so as a bit of necessity, they have to pop a copyright notice in there that the images and stuff used are copyright Paramount and Modiphius, so don't try stealing them and pretending that they're your own, because they ain't. That's all that's about. It's nothing else to worry about in that regard. There should be a button that says, okay, don't remind me of this again, when you scroll on down. So it shouldn't, I hope, pop up again. As long as it holds your session. Alright then, folks. I am just going to quickly turn off the rumble, and then I'm going to turn off the plinky plunky. And I'm going to briefly take folks who are watching the stream over to our intro video, so we'll be back in a few seconds. Don't go anywhere. Hello and welcome, folks, to the further adventures of the USS Combs. I'm MJ the GM, otherwise known as Matt, and I will be your Admiral for today. Even though down where I am at the moment it's far too hot to be wearing an Admiral's uniform, but hey, stiff upper lip and all that. So, let's put some ambient rumble on, and let's put the ambient theme on. Welcome, welcome. So, announcements first. Oh, The power of ease. This Lily Tavish character seems better than the USS Navis crew. Oh, we're going there already, are we? Thank you for that, Dave.
All right, mate.
Yes, for those who do, like Suitable Substrate, tune in to my other games. I do run Tuesday as well as this new one, so the inter-crew, how shall we say, competition begins here. Or at least started several sessions ago, but who wants to count? Yes, so announcements first. The most obvious announcement we've got is that, sadly, our former first officer, Commander Baruva, played by Obi, Obi decided to leave us like I noted last time, but the important announcement is that we have a new first officer who we'll be introducing today. Played by Elizabeth, we'll be having Commander Trasa Hopkins join our Intrepid crew, which is a bit of a joke because it's an Intrepid class of ship, and that was a very poor one. I'm very sorry. Whew. So welcome along to Elizabeth to be part of the crew. Elizabeth also having slight mic issues. There we are. So yes, we're all here, and we're all hopefully geared up for this. So let's see. Let me just clear my throat. Where to start? Well, first things first, I hope everybody's doing okay. So those of us who are here in Britain are feeling the heat at the moment, which I know for some folks is not an issue if you do actually have air conditioning in your house, but strangely, when they built houses over here across the pond, they decided to give more priority to not freezing during winter than they did to finding ways of keeping the heat out during summer, so go figure. Before I begin and get started on maybe folks looking into a claim, like Dave just did, is there anything anybody wants to bring up now before we get started properly? Any little announcements they want to make? Any questions, clarifications, and whatnot they would like to pose?
12 threat?
Yes! That's a good question, and I shall answer it. You guys have got the momentum pool, yes? You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't worry, we'll get through that as we go. So your momentum pool is there and has a maximum of 6, and it allows you to do things like buy extra dice, and maybe sometimes you can spend momentum to create an advantage for yourselves, or a disadvantage for enemies, or you can use it to... Ooh, I had something in mind and it just slipped my brain. You can use momentum to do various stuff. Threat is the GM's version of momentum. And on average, a GM gets 2 points of threat per player character. And since all of you happen to be here today, well, that means all the more threat for me! Yay! I get more to play with. And just like momentum allows you to manipulate events in your favor, threat allows me to make events a little bit more difficult.
It's too much power for one person to have.
Well, and that's why I'm on this chair and you're all over there on the other side of the table.
With great power comes great responsibility. Just remember
And
that.
and I will wield that responsibility as best I can. I just might giggle a few times depending on what I'd have to happen. So you know, just to warn you.
In other words, we're doing.
You know the old saying: when the GM smiles, it's already too late.
Chapter 3 now?
We are on episode 3 today.
3. Episode 3, where the USS Combs blew up and died.
Yeah, but then, you know, that allows you to then go through the brilliant time of restarting a new character and coming up with a new ship, you know. All that good stuff.
Yeah,
although, you know, if any survivors come out of that eventuality where everyone, you know, everything gets blown up, then somebody's going to have to explain to Starfleet why a very new crew of people were allowed to go out and wreck an Intrepid class. But there we are. Anyway, yeah, tangent. Sorry, drifting so far off the subject of me wielding threat responsibly. Yes. Yes. So because Dave brought it up, I am going to bring up the little note about acclaim, because I think some have spent acclaim, most haven't. So, like I noted to Dave and those who were able to remember, acclaim is very much to do with your career as Starfleet officers, and therefore your actions during an episode will dictate how much acclaim you get, and depending on your actions, you may get reprimands as well. And acclaim points can be cashed in order to do things like gain the favor of an NPC or increase your reputation. Reputation is a measure of how well or how badly other people within Starfleet react to you. If you've got a good reputation, then people will recognize you and know you for all the exceptional things you've done. If your reputation is less than good, then they will know who you are, but they will have less of a good opinion of you. That kind of thing. So as an example, Dave decided to spend 4 points of the 6 acclaim that he had accrued from the last episode on upping his reputation to the next level up. So Lieutenant Tavish is now known to have a fine record and have a few commendations for exceptional performance. Upping your reputation in such a manner is pretty much essential for if and when you are looking to get a promotion for your character. Your character will need to be viewed as having a really good reputation before you can be judged worthy of attaining a promotion to the next rank up. And as soon as you achieve that rank, your reputation will go back down to default again, which will be 3. Other things you can do with acclaim, like I said, you can spend points to buy favor with NPCs. The more influential the NPC, the more it costs. You can also, if you want, if you think the actions of another crew member have been noteworthy, you can donate some of your acclaim to them instead. As a way of saying, I think this guy did really, really well and should be noticed for it. But the one that folks will spend most of their acclaim on will be awards. And you can find those if you take a little trip with me towards the right-hand, what I call the chat column, where you can see, at the moment, there should be very little in the chat column, so I'm just going to roll a d4 so you can see where it turns up. So I rolled a d4 and you see that I got the result of 3 in the right-hand chat column. So if you go across to what looks like a suitcase icon, and when you hover over it, it says items. When you press that, you should get a load of folders, the top one of which is award talents. Everybody with me?
Yep, got it.
Cool. There are a lot of awards, as you can see. There are a fair few of them, and they all have a point cost associated to them. That's how much acclaim it costs to buy an award. Each of them has conditions that must be filled for you to get them, and they have a benefit. For instance, I am currently looking at the Azure Cross for Excellence in Piloting, which has a cost of 2 acclaim. If you want to get it, you have to have performed brave and outstanding feats of piloting in a situation where actions were critical to saving lives, and if you do manage to get that award, then once per mission, you can reduce the difficulty of a single con task by 1 to a minimum of 1. So awards will give you bonuses, boosts, and that kind of thing if you get them. Not to mention that if you get enough awards, you probably become bulletproof by the sheer amount of medals you've got across your chest. So most of my folks have tended towards going for awards more than anything else. Some of the crew of the Navis treat them almost like Pokemon trainer medals, so gotta catch them all. And that is the first of our cross-franchise quotes for tonight. Tonight? It's not even nighttime yet, Matt. Depending on where you are, of course. So, other things you can spend your reclaim on, not to spend too much longer on it. If you're familiar with how traits work, you can buy yourself an extra trait, which usually costs 3, so it's no small expenditure. Anything else? Not really. That's pretty much it as far as a claim goes, so nothing much more to say in that regard. Alright, any questions? Yes, go on.
Get to spend, say if we wanted to buy reputation,
yes,
is it 3 acclaim per reputation point?
Good question. I thought that's a good question. So everybody has a default value of 3 on reputation, and that represents, fairly standard default. Going any lower means, you're not regarded as highly, but going up to 4 and 5 is where you want to go if you want promotions, and that means you've got a solid record. In order to go from 3 to 4, you need to spend 4. In order to go from 4 to 5, you need to spend 5. So the level you want to get to is how much acclaim you spend. I put a note down on your character notes, if you remember where those are, as to what your current acclaim and what your current reputation are. And those of you who are watching the stream can see that I'm currently in Dr. Sott's character notes.
Oh.
Noting that, you've got 6 acclaim, that your reputation is 3, so you've got a solid record, and then Chief Medical Officer's log, I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer. Thanks for that, Chris.
You're welcome.
Made me chuckle. So, Mark, if you wanted to have Phlesc go up in reputation, assuming you do, of course.
Yeah.
Then the cost for you would also be 4 from your current acclaim of 6. So if that's what you want to do, then that's what you can do.
I'm also just trying to find my notes.
So if you want to find your notes, I directed you towards that suitcase-looking icon on the top that says items. To the right of that, there's like an open book, and if you hover over that, it says journal.
There we go.
And there's a folder called character notes, and each of your character has an individual set of notes that you should be able to edit yourselves. Awesome. So each of you have got your own personal ones. You can put whatever your notes you need in there. They can be your background, your character's background, history, that kind of thing. The career events that we put in before. Let me just put in the different text for what having reputation 4 means for you. If I can just find it. Change the text. Da-da-da-da. Now, usually I would do a claim and that kind of thing. I would let you guys have a think about it over the course of the week or the 2 weeks or whatever that we spend between sessions, but for the benefit of those who haven't done a claim, we're doing it today.
Okay.
So there we are.
Yeah, I think I'll put Garrow's reputation up.
So most are going for better reputations, okie dokie. So all you got to do is just where it says a claim 6, you can take it down to a claim 2 since it will cost you 4, and change reputation 3 to reputation 4.
I think I'll up my rep as well. Where's the acclaim counter, sorry?
So if you go to your character notes, you'll see that on everyone's formatted more or less the same. At the top it says episodes, how many episodes your character has been in, how many used milestones you got. It'll then say acclaim 6. I hope. You're not with me yet, Chris?
Unfortunately not, no. Whereabouts those notes? It's not in my character sheet, is it?
No, it's not on your character sheet. So if you go to the right-hand column, where the chat stuff happens, towards the middle of the available buttons on the top there's what looks like an open book, and if you hover your mouse over it, it'll say journal.
Found him.
There's a folder that says character notes. If you open that, Dr. Sott's character note should be the second one down underneath Commander Trasa Hopkins' notes.
Yep.
Groovy. And that's where you can see how many... Sorry, Connie, what was that?
Sorry. Can I buy reputation and an award talent?
Well,
if you think you've got enough points for an award, then by all means.
So how much am I docking for my acclaim to increase my rep by 1?
If you are increasing your reputation, then you've got to purchase the amounts that you're going towards, which in this case is 4.
Cool. So 2 acclaim left over. Reputation 4. Whoops, not 45.
You wish. Dr. Sott is known throughout the quadrant.
There we go.
So
I've updated it on my character sheet as well.
That's fine, if you want to keep it there. The character sheets do have a reputation track on the top, but that's the old reputation system, and I like to use the alternative one, because the old one didn't make much sense to me. Hashtag gym badges, yes. Thank you, Sean. So Connie, you were doing 2 things. You were upping your reputation and you were looking to buy an award.
Yeah.
So if I just change that in your reputation at least, what was the hashtag gym badge you were looking at?
Starfleet citation for conspicuous gallantry. I think I've earned it.
I think you have. You must have succeeded at particularly heroic, risky, or daring action. Yep, you shielded. You shielded somebody from attack, so yeah, that cost you 2, which will cost you the rest of your acclaim. Sorry,
right meat shield.
So that means that having that, so let's pull that into Tavish's... Not Tavish? No, Tavish doesn't get it. Screw Tavish. So I'm just going to pull that over. So it'll be now... so you can just do that with talents, you can just draw them over. I've done it already. It's in there. So that means that once per mission, once per episode, when you pay for an immediate momentum spend by adding to threat, you may reroll 1 challenge dice per point of threat added. So this goes into the idea of... Excuse me a sec, let me clear my throat. You can do certain actions that are paid for by granting me extra threat. So, if Neshlel does something by adding to threat, she tries to act immediately by adding to threat. That's an option you have. So by trying to jump the gun and act before everybody else, you grant me a point of threat. But in doing so, you can roll a challenge dice, which is a 6-sided dice, and if you roll a 5 or a 6, or as it's called an effect, that addition to threat that you've just given me can be removed. So that's interesting. That gives you incentive to try and jump the gun and see if you can act before everybody else. But in doing so, you've run the risk of giving me extra threat, but there's the possibility that you won't. So that's interesting. But yes, congratulations. Neshlel's now got her first award. Her first medal to pin on her dress uniform. So nice. So that's the kind of thing you can do with acclaim. So anybody else doing anything regards to their... Because most of you have decided to do the same and all up your reputation so far. Yes?
Mm-hmm.
So someone was going to say something then?
No, I've just put my rep up.
You just put your wrap up. Okay. Garrow's got a reputation. Okay, so your rep has gone up. Cool in the
I've
game.
also amended the character note.
Yep. And I also inserted the text for what 4 reputation means. So, just to check that I've got everybody working then, Dr. Sott has upped his rep to 4. Garrow has upped his rep to 4. Gurkow has upped her rep to 4, but also has got a medal. Phlesc has upped his rep to 4. Oh, you even time-stamped it. Mark! Oof. I like it. You're one of those note-takers. Awesome. I like you. Those note-takers are the ones that can tell me things I've forgotten. I think you'll find that on the 27th of the 2nd month of the year 2023, you said this. Which can also come back to bite me, actually, so...
You need to do a Phoenix Strike. Objection!
I haven't played those games, actually, but, yeah. I don't have the hair. I can't make my hair do the thing. That's, I can't get that whole jagged thing. The best I can manage is barely restrained tentacular horror going on behind my head. Anywho, enough about me. Does anybody else have anything else that they want to do with their character regarding a claim or milestones?
I'm gonna save what remains up.
So, a claim, as I stated, is based on your actions at the end of every episode. So, if you don't use it, you lose it. But you've at least had the advantage of you earned quite a big one this time, so it gave you all the opportunity to boost your to boost your reputation. The way that a claim works is that you have a number of positive influences and negative influences based upon what your character's actions during the course of an episode. If you do things like, if your mission was successful, did you positively use one or more of the mission directives? Did you obey the orders given to you? Did you prevent combat occurring, or did you avoid escalating hostilities? Did you establish common ground or peaceful negotiation or cooperation with those you newly encountered, or with those that were previously hostile? Did you contribute directly to saving the lives of innocent people or your fellow crew? And/or did you take all reasonable action to render aid to those in need? Those are all positive things that will earn you a claim. Likewise, there are things that will cause reprimands, which are: did your mission fail? Did you challenge the directives of the mission? Were you disobedient? Was any personnel under your command killed? Did you employ force over what was needed? Did you employ lethal force? Did you take unnecessary risks? Did you cause or allow through inaction innocent lives to be lost? Did you lie, cheat, threaten, or coerce others to achieve your objective? Did you permit a colleague or a subordinate to act unethically or illegally? Those are negative influences, excuse me, and they can earn you reprimands, which are the opposite of a claim. So this gives your characters accountability for their actions. If you live up to the standards and ideals of the Federation in Starfleet, then you should gain good reputation and should get rewards career-wise for it. But being half Klingon is going to bite you in the butt? Well, dear lady, you have no idea. Actually, you do, because we're about to start dealing with that, hopefully this session, so... We will see. All interesting stuff. So, anything else before we get started with the episode? Any other questions you want to ask me about how things work, like the acclaim, the milestones, anything like that? Anything at all?
Nothing.
I will take the silence for assent, or was somebody about to ask me something?
No.
Awesome. In that case, I am just going to say that we will, trust me, introduce our new first officer soon enough, but first we have to get through a few introductory scenes. So, have no fear. We will see our new officer in a moment. we will start this episode with a party in the mess hall on the USS Combs. This party is drawing to a close. And the music starts to die down a little bit as from out of the mess hall, going down the various corridors of the USS Combs, we find Captain Sobek, flanked by Lieutenant Phlesc, Lieutenant Tavish, and Lieutenant Gurkow, all of them coming out of the mess hall, striding down the corridors. And yes, Lieutenant Phlesc is looking a bit apologetic as as Captain Sobek is there marching down the corridors with his hands behind his back and says, "I have to confess, Lieutenant Phlesc, when you said you were enacting a denobulant custom regarding a crew member's birthday party, I had no idea you invited the entire crew. Nor was I aware of the denobulant custom of queuing. I do believe we managed to track the entire gift-giving process to Ensign Ravalon on his birthday as taking an impressive 2.5 hours.
I hope
Far
they
be it from me to
appreciated this.
criticize denobulant customs.
My apologies. I hope they had a very good birthday.
I wouldn't know. By the end of it, even Ensign Ravalon looked like he was... I'm not sure what the expression is. Keen to leave. Can I get, therefore, out of Lieutenant Tavish and Lieutenant Gurkow what they might have gotten your communication officer as a present? Bearing in mind that they've just spent 2 hours queuing to give it to him.
Oh.
I got this like ancient technology.
Did you give him a span?
No, I gave him a walkie-talkie.
Oh, how cute!
It's, you know, communication officer.
Right, of course, communications officer. My gift to you, a walkie-talkie. Of course, he needs the other walkie-talkie for it to work, but...
Oh no, it's a set of walkie-talkies.
Oh, you've given him an entire set, okay.
Yeah. I managed to find 4 of the same, I don't know. So, you know, if he's got friends... I don't know.
I think after having queued for 2.5 hours to give him his presents, he might not have any friends anymore, but hey. What about Neshlel, Connie? What do you think Neshlel would have given the communication officer on his birthday?
Neshlel's a hippie at heart, so a rare Talarian mountain orchid.
Well, very well. He probably appreciated that. Nice. Okie dokie. Lieutenant Phlesc, of course, being a denobulant, he was the one who organised all of this. So it wasn't his purview to give the gift. But what would Phlesc have given? What did Phlesc give Ensign Ravalon, the communications officer, as a gift?
I would have given them the finest denobulan sausage.
Oh my!
Oh my.
Well, if I check Ensign Ravalon's species, if I remember, yeah, he's an Ephrosian. These guys are known for being quite Ephrosians are known for being quite sexually active, actually, especially the males. So, sausage indeed. To quote Uncle George, oh my. So, yes, everyone is on their way back towards the bridge, especially because we are about to near our mission briefing. But we are going to quickly as that lot are on their way up to the bridge, we're going to just quickly switch scenes as we find Lieutenant Garrow in his quarters. He didn't come along to the birthday celebrations because, as a Bajoran, Lieutenant Garrow is observing his daily morning prayers. So I'm just going to bring us to the deck, the bridge. Ensign Garrow, pardon me, I demoted him. Yikes! I didn't mean that. Lieutenant Garrow. Lieutenant Garrow is there in front of his personal shrine to... I've gone all Sean Connery all of a sudden. His personal shrine to the prophets, so he's got his eyes closed, his arms open wide to invite the light of the prophets to bathe him and to honor him. And he finishes his morning prayers in front of his little altar, just as the signal for him to join the senior bridge crew comes over his intercom. So Lieutenant Garrow just quietly douses the candles, closes the door on his personal shrine to the prophets, puts on his comm badge, because he's not to be disturbed during his morning prayers, and proceeds to the bridge. This is where we go to. Captain's log, stardate 48253.1. Starfleet has decided to attach the Combs to the 20th Fleet under Admiral April Hebert. 3 ships of the fleet, including ours, are to be based at Starbase 364, otherwise known as Narendra Station. Excuse me, my voice is going. Otherwise known as Narendra Station, which sits on the edge of the largely unexplored region of space known as the Shackleton Expanse. The primary mission objective of the fleet will be exploration of this unmapped region, as was my hope when being assigned to be captain of a ship of the Intrepid class. As such, the Combs is currently en route to Starbase 364, where we will receive our full briefing, as well as our new first officer. So, we get our bridge crew all assembled on the bridge in their various stations, and the captain directs everybody's attention to the viewer as a space station looms into view as the ship comes out of warp. Where's the view screen on? Here we go. You see what you are used to seeing as a standard Federation starbase. It's that long, kind of white-coloured, mushroom-shaped type of starbase, but what differentiates it from other starbases that you've seen before is its size. It's actually pretty big. Not to mention the fact that rather than just the odd bit of civilian craft, you've also got stationed in orbit around the space station itself, the starbase I should say. You've got a massive Galaxy-class starship in orbit, as well as you can see from here that an Akira class is now starting to move into the main dock, which are those lovely big wide doors that open on the upper part of the starbase to admit entrance for this Akira class vessel. And not far behind this Akira class is an impressively large Klingon cruiser. The more you look, the more you find that there's a rather interesting melange, as it were, of ships of various different types, some Starfleet, some civilian, all from various different places. But there is as much a mix of Federation ships as there are Klingon ships. My crew, says Captain Sobek, I would like to introduce you to our home for the foreseeable future, Narendra Station, the first of its kind, built in collaboration between both Federation and Klingon engineers. This will be our base of operations for the foreseeable future. So, as the ship is drawing closer, hailing frequencies are established. as your communications officer, the birthday boy himself, Ensign Ravalon, establishes communication with Starbase 364. You don't immediately get an answer hail, but eventually you do get.
Yes. Hold your horses. Federation ship, this is Starbase 364 Control. We have you on our view screens. Please proceed to the docking area. Docking bay number 2. What? Oh, right, of course. Welcome to Narendra Station. What, I gotta do more? Fine. We hope you enjoy our stay. Your stay. See, I'm so unfamiliar with this human greeting nonsense. Can't I just tell them to get in the docking bay? What do you mean this is still on?
And he finally signs out. Captain Sobek just raised a Vulcan eyebrow to this. Helm, take us into dock number 2, if you will. All hands, this is the captain. Prepare to disembark. And so, I am going to take us to Narendra Station. So, yes, as has been indicated, this is going to be your base of operations for the foreseeable future. What that means for those of you as officers are, you have been given communications from Starfleet Admiralty that because you are being posted here, like any officer, you will be granted quarters on board the station. And that means anybody with family are allowed to petition for their family to have somewhere to stay on board the station as well. Now, Captain Sobek, being a Vulcan, isn't too worried about that. So whether or not you guys think your characters would bring their families aboard the station, because, you know, you're going to be there for a long time, and you're basically in the Navy now, son. So people moving around a lot is what happens, especially if they're officers. Now, Garrow himself, I don't know if Chris Ebo thought that Lieutenant Garrow had any other Bajoran family members outside of the homeworld who managed to get out before the Cardassians occupied Bajor, but that's entirely Chris's purview, so...
He hasn't.
He hasn't, they're all still over there, okay. So Garrow is probably going to have quarters on his own. The one to look out for, of course, is Lieutenant Phlesc. Being a Denobulan, Phlesc more than likely has, if he, well, depending on how young he is at this point, but Denobulans are known for having very impressively large family trees. Denobulans don't just have one sexual partner, they usually have several, and each of them have several in turn. So, is Lieutenant Phlesc bringing his close family or his family with what's the word I'm looking for? Separated by a factor of 1? No, that's not even a correct term. There's a word for it when you've got cousins twice removed or once removed. So yeah, you've got your children once or twice removed.
I'd be petitioning, because Denobulans are very family focused, to have my core family, primary family,
right,
which would be a very, very modest 45.
All right then. So yes, that means that yes, Denobulans like Lieutenant Phlesc are probably the bane of those guys who are trying to organize housing. So your Phlesc's family have probably been allocated an entire wing on the residential area. An entire string of quarters, all to the family. Nice. Okay.
It was a concession. It wasn't my extended. This is just my core family, my close family.
Yes. So just wife number 1 and wife number 2, and their husbands and wives, and the immediate children on that regard. So yes. All very good. So, let's see. We are coming in to dock. Which means I'm going to throw us over to the docking bay. This is where we find ourselves. So this catwalk here is the main catwalk that is umbilical catwalk that is attached to the. Pardon me, I'm trying to find words here and they're failing me, but this always happens. The Combs has now been secured in its dock, and this little bridge here is what separates the crew from the dock itself. And as you are proceeding down the little bridge, you can see a half-human, half-Klingon waiting for you, dressed in the red of command staff and the standard 3 pips for a commander. There's still bustle of activity going on around the place. There's humans and Klingon engineers are busy running to attach fuel lines and other such paraphernalia as they are busy working away, as the captain and the senior crew of the Combs find their way onto the dock. And yes, Captain Sobek squares up to our new recruit, Commander Hopkins, I presume. Gotta love Klingons.
Yes, sir.
May I present my command staff? This is my Chief Science Officer, Lieutenant Gurkow, Tellarite. My Chief of Operations, Lieutenant Phlesc, Denobulin. Chief Engineer, Lieutenant Tavish, Human. Chief Security and Tactical Officer, Lieutenant Garrow, Bajoran. And our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sott.
Hello.
Bolian. May I introduce you all to Commander Trasa Hopkins, half Klingon. Commander, your reputation precedes you. I am pleased to have you attached to our crew. I am, for lack of a better term, I believe you like to use the word excited at the prospect of having someone of 2 cultures as part of my crew.
I don't want to be that excited. But it is good to finally be around like-minded people.
Very good. In regards to being around like-minded people, I am privileged to say that I enjoy surrounding myself with people who do like to think out of the box, as it were. And your unique disposition as being a person of 2 very different cultures may very well grant you the difference of insight that I do like to surround myself with in regards to my senior officers. You should, I hope, fit in well, Commander. In the meantime, I do believe that the Admiral is awaiting us in the main auditorium. Perhaps we should proceed there forthwith. So the captain makes to look to depart the docking area. However, just as you guys are all forming up and getting ready to be led through to where you need to go next, which is apparently the main auditorium, a Denobulan woman, dressed in dirty overalls and with some goggles across her forehead, which does not disguise the fact that she is Denobulan. She basically steps forward and has a look at the Combs as it's there docked, and she kind of rubs her hands, her dirty hands, within a handkerchief, as she or oily rag more like, as she looks the Combs up and down. Well, intrepid, huh? Top of the line. Can't wait to get my dirty mitts all over this baby.
Tavish stares. What do you mean by that?
The Denobulan woman then looks over at Tavish. Excuse me, Squib? I am Master Chief Petty Officer Tien, and it's my job to make sure that every ship that comes into Narendra Station is given a thorough workover.
As long as it doesn't blow up afterwards.
As chief engineer of the Tombs, as long as you keep me apprised of whatever you're doing, we should be fine.
Excuse me? She kind of pushes up, not directly up against, but she squares her shoulders against Tavish here. Let me guess, I'm not to touch your engines, right?
No, I'm just saying, please keep me apprised. I know you've got a job to do.
She looks Tavish up and down, and then she gives her a slap across the shoulder. Ha! All right then. I like you, Squib. Most of the new flyboys and stick jockeys like to try and, mark their territory with us grease monkeys on the dock. It's usually this, don't touch my engines, or don't you dare lay a finger on my core. Almost as if you guys don't know that it's up to my dock hands to make sure that your ship is still running in perfect condition when she leaves, as well as when she arrives.
I probably should say this, is that you probably won't find anything wrong with it, because, I am chief engineer.
Probably. Okay, we'll take that as a mark of confidence. I like you, Squib. I'll look out for you. And she goes back to talking with one of the other engineers. Captain Sobek is just there mouthing the word squib a couple of times with a very perplexed look on his face. I believe we are expected by the Admiral, says the captain. And so, everybody marches down out of the main dock area and proceeds. So, the layout of Starbase 364, Narendra Station, is somewhat unusual, as you find out when you access the floor plans of the place, as it were. In a very similar manner to a place like Deep Space Nine, you do actually have the main, the top of the mushroom cap of the base is taken up for the most part by the docking area where the ships can come in, but there's also a very big area atop that, which apparently is called the Galleria, and you can think of this more or less as the equivalent of Deep Space Nine's Promenade. So the Galleria is where all the various different civilian shops and merchants and whatnot you will find while on board the station, and there are folks from all over. As much as this place is a very heavy mix of Federation and Klingon, you do get others coming here as well. So you can find bars, you can find shops and restaurants and all sorts on the Galleria level of Narendra Station. The top part of the mushroom cap then is taken up with the operations center. Interestingly enough, according to the schematics that you can see of the layout of the station, the Klingons seem to like to keep themselves mostly to the lower levels, and that includes the main core works of the station, but they seem to have also built themselves what looks like a training arena in some of the lower levels. So if there are places you want to visit, you can do so after we pay a visit to the auditorium. So before I get to that, any questions? I will take that as a no. Alrighty.
No.
So you guys managed to get on turbo lift. The place has got signage all around the place, so you can find your way easily enough. Eventually, you do manage to make your way to the entrance to the auditorium, which is why I'm going to change the map to this. you guys should be up here. So, the entrance to the auditorium is what looks like a marble floor with some steps proceeding up to a pair of doors. But the doors are preceded by a young Andorian woman wearing. She does have the colours of and the insignia of operations on her, but she's wearing what looks more like a kind of a secretarial dress uniform, and she has got a very large data pad cradled in the crook of one arm. As she watches you guys approach, she has a broad beaming smile on her face as you guys come closer. Ah, you're the crew of the Combs, correct? Excellent. So I just need to confirm that you are all present and correct. My name is Lieutenant Trasa. I am Admiral Hebert's assistant. So she has just tasked me with making sure that everyone required is present. And so, Captain Sobek, Commander Hopkins, Lieutenant Nishnel, I do apologize. I don't meet many Tellarites. Neshlel Lash Gurkow?
Close
Did I pronounce that? Lieutenant Garo Lisi, Lieutenant Lillian Tavish?
Lily Tavish.
I do beg your pardon. And Lieutenant Phlesc and Dr. Sot.
Yeah.
Very well. Excellent.
I'm out.
If you can just accompany me then through the doors, I will show you where you will need to be seated. So Lieutenant Trasa exits through these doors. As you enter through these doors, the overall sound of occupancy that you've met, the sound of people walking, the sound of people talking, discussing, murmuring has been very strong. There've been the sound of the tannoys. This noticeably dims as you enter through these doors, suggesting that yes, this is a place where the noise of outside is being suppressed, probably artificially. There are large screens in this reception area that show all sorts of interesting things, mostly news articles about things that are going on around the galaxy at the moment. So basically the Federation News Network is being shown on some of these screens. Lieutenant Trasa is still guiding you guys along towards these open doors here, and she kind of takes a step back to allow you admittance. Lieutenant Phlesc shut the doors after him, not wanting anybody else to follow. I'm going to be first.
Whoops.
That's fine. So, Lieutenant Trasa says that the rest of the crew of the Combs are currently sat down on the diagonal where I am pinging currently. Since you are the command crew, you will be sitting in the front row. Lieutenant Trasa herself goes to join the Admiral, who's standing down near a podium. So, Chris, we've left Lieutenant Garo behind. He's busy apparently chatting up one of the station crew. But hell, it's Idris Elba. Who would say no? Hey, I'm Bajoran. We are known as a very deeply spiritual people. Sorry, what was that, Chris?
So everyone seems to spit out there. They are.
Yeah. Garo looks quickly around. Where did everybody go?
Did I ever tell you your power was strong?
You have such wonderful earlobes. Yes, so the crew of the Combs, you can see some of the other minor crew members are already here, and they're sat in this specific area. So, Chris, if you want to bring Lieutenant Garrow down. Standing next to... There's obviously a raised podium in the center of the auditorium, and there is a small command console, next to which is a rather impressively garbed Klingon, as well as a decorated Starfleet admiral currently in discussion. With the fact that the Lieutenant Sharessa is standing right next to the admiral, doesn't take a genius to realize that this admiral is more than likely Admiral Hebert herself. What you do see around you there are a number of other crews. Most obviously, of course, kind of sat a little bit away from everybody else, there's a Klingon crew who are just watching everything and everybody with usual interest. But as soon as pardon me, I've just demoted her. My pardon, sorry, Elizabeth. As soon as Commander Hopkins walked in, the murmur amongst the Klingons kind of stopped, and they all followed her as she moved past with their eyes. And they, even though they're now engaging in murmurs, a couple of them are still like watching Hopkins from out the corners of their eyes and passing a few murmurs amongst each other here and there. While you guys are taking your places and sitting down, two people from one of the opposite Starfleet crews kind of detach themselves from the group and make their way over. Says the older gentleman. So the captain, by his pips, detaches himself from that lot and is followed by what you would reckon is his first officer because of the three commanders' pips. The human captain is an older gentleman and is the first to speak. Captain Sobek, it is so good to finally meet you. Captain Sobek nods. Captain Corbett, may I introduce you to my crew? And he goes around noting your names. Crew of the Combs, it is my privilege to introduce you to Captain Roger Corbett, captain of the USS Venture, the Galaxy-class ship that we passed on our way here. Captain Corbett is something of a veteran of Starfleet and well-respected captain, even said to be friends with Captain Benjamin Sisko himself. Corbett just kind of waves all of this off. I'm just an old man who's seen his fair share of action. I'd like to introduce my first officer, Commander Rozek. Rozek, being a Benzite, for most of you, this is the first time you've actually seen a Benzite in a command position. The Benzites are kind of a funny old species. They have this tendency to want to please everybody. So they sometimes trip over themselves in trying to please everybody. So having seen somebody who's managed to actually climb the ranks suggests that this fellow is a little bit special, a little bit different from the rest of his Benzite buddies. And he just happily waves to everybody, showing off the fact that he's got webbed fingers. A pleasure to meet you all. And so they just start bantering as captains do, but eventually it doesn't escape anybody else's notice that another captain and his commander detach themselves from a further group of Starfleet people who have seemed to have put themselves as far away from everybody else as they possibly can, even their fellow Starfleet members, as an obviously a man of Japanese descent, flanked by his Vulcan first officer, walk up. Commander Sobek? Sorry. Commander Sobek, says the captain. I believe you'll find that I am a captain now, Captain Mazda. Oh, I am sorry. They hadn't apprised me of the change in your rank as of late. May I introduce my first officer? I believe you are acquainted. And the Vulcan just kind of steps right up to Sobek and gives the Vulcan salute, to which Sobek responds. They made you captain at last. says the Vulcan. Sobek does not reply. Well, at least you'll go down in history as assisting with having created a new form of warp field. The Vulcans just kind of both stare at each other for a little bit before Sobek says, "Thank you, Commander." At which point, those two just kind of peel back towards their crew, leaving everybody to feel the very awkward tension in the air. Commander pardon me, I keep demoting people. I'm really sorry. Captain Sobek turns back around, looks to everybody who's just staring, and goes, "I am sorry that you had to see that. Usually I'm a lot more composed." Commander Tonak and I have a history. He has a habit of making me behave irresponsibly and not worthy of a captain. If you could just all forget what you just witnessed, that would be appreciated. Captain Corbett just kind of part chuckles to himself and goes, Vulcans.
Phlesc.
What was that, sorry?
I was going to say,
Elizabeth, you go first.
Smirks.
Hold on to that, Mark. Let me get Elizabeth first. Yeah, sorry.
Hopkins is just eyeing the Klingons as they eye her.
Yep. And again, they're still just kind of looking at Hopkins from a distance, just kind of exchanging mutters. What was that you said, Mark? Phlesc?
Phlesc was just smirking cheekily as to what Captain Sobek said.
Yeah. There's a short bing bong kind of announcement goes over, and Corbett goes, "Well, that looks like the briefing's about to start, so I better get over there to the rest of my crew. Pleasure meeting you all," and he takes you all in with his gaze at that. "Since we're all going to be working together for the foreseeable future, in fact, then I look forward to speaking to you all again." And Commander Razak, his first officer, gives everybody a wave before he goes back to his seating. The lights dim in the auditorium a little bit as the murmur of conversation kind of dies down, and the Admiral and the Klingon General kind of take their place at the top of the podium in the center of the auditorium.
Welcome to Narendra Station, everybody. I am Admiral April Hebert. You and your crews were assigned to the 20th Fleet under my command, though I'm here to tell you that you will not be added to the standard fleet rotation. No, Starfleet and I have a greater purpose for you and your crews. The Shackleton Expanse.
And with that, a hologrammatical map of the Expanse appears in the air above the center of the auditorium. It shows a very wide area of space that is covered mostly with nebulae, but there are various interesting-looking star formations going on in there too. But the thing that strikes you most of all about this map is that it's very empty. A true unexplored area of space. Admiral Hebert carries on.
We've sat on the edge of that region of space for too long without formally sending in a ship to properly explore, and Starfleet's decided that now is as good a time as any. I suspect our resident civilian chief of sciences, Dr. Taliaferro, fired up some political kindling under the Federation's Science Council to get Starfleet moving into the Expanse. Whatever she said to whoever she said it to, it worked. And now I have orders to send someone in.
When the Admiral mentions Chief Sciences Dr. Taliaferro, she does indicate to a lady sat very much by herself, dressed in civilian clothes, but also in a scientist's doctor's coat. And she's just kind of sitting there, impatiently tapping her foot, or her knees basically jigging up and down impatiently while she's got a rather big data pad in her hands, just kind of watching proceedings.
That being said, you won't be going in alone. I pulled the strings necessary to ensure that I got not 1, but 3 vessels assigned to this mission. And within a few months, our Klingon allies will be sending at least 1 more warship. I expect they'll make the appropriate noises about supporting our exploration efforts, but let's be honest, our Klingon compatriots will be looking to further their own goals as well. Make no mistake, however, this isn't going to be just a deep space exploration mission. Traffic in and out of the Expanse and the station has ramped up in recent months. We have more independent vessels and merchant freighters coming and going than ever before, which has kept security on their toes. Further, if Dr. Taliaferro's latest research is accurate, something is happening within the Expanse which warrants a closer look. I want you and the rest of the exploration flotilla to be my eyes and ears within the Expanse. That's enough for now. Make sure to get yourselves settled in. Briefings will be tomorrow morning at 07:30.
At which point, Admiral Hebert kind of steps down and gives a nod to her Klingon compatriot, who just stands there impressively. Now, the Klingon himself is, as you might expect most Klingons, he's very big, he's very broad. He has something of a gut poking through his uniform, which suggests that he is an older gentleman and has been in the command seat for some time. This can be none other than General Kargan. Those of you who have kept up with Klingon-related news know that General Kargan is one of the High Chancellor Gowron's biggest supporters. So that's more than likely how he managed to get this posting. So the General steps up next to speak.
As co-administrator of Starbase 364, I am expected to welcome you to the service of this station and region of space. Welcome. There, that task is complete. Now, I will be direct with you. I do not know your ships. I do not know what battles you have fought, or what glory, if any, you have gained for yourselves or your crew. But I am not so far removed from the command chair of the Bach that I have forgotten the thrill of a new assignment and the challenge of being amongst the first into the unknown reaches of space. I have sat where you now sit, and believe I know what you are thinking, even if your hearts are not Klingon. The Expanse is not for the timid. This assignment is not for the weak. Your Federation scientists believe there are disturbances and phenomena within the Expanse that require closer study. Fine. Let Starfleet send their ships to poke and prod at the cosmos. I have no interest in such things unless they prove to be a threat to this station, the Empire, or to our alliance. Do not forget these words. I have issued a request to Chancellor Gowron to send me more warships and captains to support the exploration of the Expanse. Where your little vessels manage the scientific portion of the mission, we will defend you and fight whatever Habidah dare interfere. Rest assured, we will defend you like an Alpha Targ defends its newborn, mewling brood. Enough. I grow tired of speaking to you, and there is blood wine to be consumed.
And the General steps down. At which point he moves over towards the Klingon crew. Admiral Hebert taps a note on the console in front of her in order to bring the lights back up, and says, "Thank you all, you are now all dismissed. We'll see you for briefings at 07:30 hours tomorrow morning. Crew of the Combs, I need to speak to you first tomorrow morning, so make sure you are here bright and early. Otherwise, dismissed. So, basically, the crews break up. The first to leave are this lot. And Corbett and his lot are willing to hang around and have a little chat, if that's what you want. So, basically, the world is now your oyster. What would you like to do? Things you would like to discuss, questions you would like to ask, anything and everything. Alrighty then. If nobody is venturing anything, then you guys are free to go about having basically offloading your personal belongings off of the Combs and start finding your crew quarters. Phlesc has the easiest time finding his crew quarters because they take up an entire wing. The rest of you have individual crew quarters. Now, the more senior officers are allocated lodging based on their rank, of course, so the higher you are in rank, the closer you are to the officers of the Admiralty, or the Admiral and the General, rather. So senior officers tend to be on the upper floors, and it then it trickles down. So, I'm going to guess that one of the first places that anybody goes to check out is going to be the local bar.
Oh, yes.
So, who's going? Okay, cool. So, the entire...
Sign me up.
Let's go find the pub. So, because she is a... Unless you want to specifically bring her along, or both of them, in fact, because they are non-player characters, but they are still members of your crew. Captain Sobek and Commander Zhang, your Chief Helm Officer, more or less. Nope, that's not the bar, that's the docking bay. Let's not take you back there. You guys eventually find your way to the one place that is recommended by all others, and that's to go to Zargo's place. Let's take you there. So you find this brightly lit kind of club, cafe, restaurant thing. You're not entirely sure what it is they do here. It seems to be a little bit of everything. So you find tables full of mixes of various people. The Klingons like to basically sit by themselves, it seems, but they are at least... there are pockets of Klingons within the area sat next to tables with Starfleet and civilian types, so you are free to explore. Dr. Sott goes straight to the bar. Probably wants to find some alcoholic stuff to use as medicinal remedies.
Sure.
Sure, let's go with that. Okay. What you said. Phlesc, meanwhile, is going over to have a chat with some of the Klingon engineers, it seems. Okay, so...
wanted to see what the Klingons are up to in this sector.
Okay, cool. So the first thing I will deal with is the moment Dr. Sott and those who go to the bar notice is that there is a Ferengi behind the bar. But not just any Ferengi. A female. And she's got like a kind of like a part necklace, part... It's just this necklace thing that's actually connected to the rings in her ears. She's got earrings on with a nice golden chain connecting them both, and she's wearing very fashionable dress wear, as she is doing a bartender's job. And what can I get you, newcomers? She says as Sott and Neshlel come up to the bar.
Where are the double tables at?
Ah, the Dabo tables. And she kind of directs Neshlel's attention in this direction. Now, sadly, finding a top-down image of a Dabo table is actually rather difficult to find, as it turns out. So, and I don't know. I didn't want to put in something like a poker table or anything like that because it was, it's basically a wheel game. But let's just picture in our minds that the Dabo area is over here, and the first thing that strikes Neshlal is the fact that there's not only Dabo girls in revealing outfits, there's Dabo guys in revealing outfits too. So, in fact, there's actually a lot more guys than there are scantily clad guys than there are girls next to the Dabo table. So.
Hello, nurse.
All willing to flex their pecs if it gets you to spin at the Dabo table.
My specialty, boys.
Why don't you just bend over there and pick up that chip for me so Mama can get a good look? Kind of thing. Nice. So we'll get to how well Neshlal does at Dabo. As Dr. Sott sits down at the bar, he notices there's this Orion sat right next to him. This Orion male, pretty young looking, dressed in what looks like a flight suit. And he's there chugging on what looks like an Andorian ale. "Hey, Flyboy," he says, looking at you. "What brings you to these parts? You're new around here, aren't you?"
Yes. I've come in pursuit of Bolian bourbon. Very hard to come by.
"Bolian bourbon," says Zargo. "Well, I haven't seen one of those in my stocks, but for you, cutie, I will make sure to get you an authentic one."
Very kind.
The Orion kind of leans over next to her and goes, "What she means is she's gonna get somebody to smuggle some on." And he's so being conspicuously inconspicuous. "Which means more than likely me, now that I think of it. Name's Rayner, by the way," says the Orion.
Dr. Sott.
"Oh, doctor, huh? Oh, well, here I was, hoping I could swap some stories with a real flyboy. I know a lot of the Shackleton Expanse, flown through it myself, know the ins and outs, one of the best pilots around here, if I do say so myself. Hey, if you ever need anything, I might know people on the inside who can get you some special stuff, if you know what I mean. Medical supplies? Uh-huh.
I'm sure I don't know what you mean."
Hey! He holds up his hands in mock ignorance. "Just having a friendly conversation here, but, I hear that biomimetic gel can be quite lucrative. Get you all sorts of things."
"I have no hair, sir. I have no need for gel."
"Ah, I see what you did there." And he kind of points to the fact that he's bald as well, with these various Orion-like decorations on his head. But, hey, if you ever need any help with anything, you wanna some tips and tricks on how to get through the Expanse, Rayner's your guy.
That's very kind, thank you.
So, Zargo, the bartender, offers Dr. Salt the best approximation to something close to, what was it, Bolian brandy or whiskey that you asked for?
Bolian bourbon.
Bolian bourbon, that was it. I knew it was alliterative.
Mm-hmm. Alliterative.
Bourbon rather than brandy. Not being anything of a connoisseur of that kind of thing, I don't know what the difference between the two are, so I will just assume. Meanwhile, over at a different table, we have Phlesc talking to a Klingon merchant as well as a Klingon engineer. So was there anything in particular you were going to be asking these boys about?
I just wanted to introduce myself first, just asking them, where can I get a good blood wine? And knowing one of them's a merchant now, seeing what's available in the Expanse, if they've been in there. Well, I want to see what they've been trading, what they've been able to get.
The general gist of what you get from these guys is that at the moment the Expanse is very much an open region. Folks have been coming here on and off in small numbers for a good couple of years. The Expanse itself is also very close to the borders of the Klingon and Romulan empires. So the Klingons have got a bit more experience, but they do say that the astrological phenomena within the Expanse can be quite extreme and therefore take their toll on the ship, which you guys know. You were there and you nearly blew up a couple of times going through the Expanse. So, but that was before Phlesk's time. So, so all Phlesc has seen is the mission reports of the various gravitational anomalies that can actually wreck a ship pretty well if you don't know what you're doing going through the Expanse. Trade is pretty much what you expect. Foodstuffs, supplies for things like, deuterium, or anti-deuterium, anything and everything that folks need to run outposts in this area. Clothes, foods, all that good stuff. And of course luxury goods. All of which have a place to be sold on board Narendra Station in its Galleria section. I notice that... Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, before I challenge one of them to, what's the backgull?
Yes.
I asked them, has there been much Romulan activity in the Expanse since it's on their border as well?
You get the general gist from them that there hasn't been. None that has been noticed. There's rumbles that the Romulans have occasionally poked and prodded at the borders, but nothing that anybody has really seen or concerned themselves with. When it comes down to Phlesc challenging one of them to that that test of strength contest, the two Klingons basically laugh in Phlesk's face. Before the merchant goes, "Wait, you're serious?"
Yes, I'm familiar with Klingon customs, and I wish to drink wine with you.
Interesting. So he holds up both his arms ready for the test of strength. I'll try not to hurt you too much. So, this is going to be the first of our tests, it seems, for this. So this is going to be a fitness and security test against the Klingons' fitness and security test. Dr. Slott's already spotted what's going on, so he's coming along with his drink to have a look. Tavish and Hopkins are on their own separate tables. Garrow is still chatting up the girl from before, it seems. Okay. But a lot of people's attention are now being drawn to this arm wrestling contest that's going to go on between the Denobulan and the Klingon. So Hopkins is very, very interested in this, and the doctor's ready there to administer attention if needs be. So this is what we're up against. I'm going to show you what you're up against here. Fitness and security. This is where I roll poorly. Okay, 1 success. You need to equal or exceed 1 success to, well, succeed.
Okay. So is it just a...
Just 2 dice as normal. I doubt you've got a focus for this. I don't remember you putting in arm wrestling champion as a focus, so I'm going to assume.
So I'm doing a public roll. So is it perform task? Sorry.
So it's yes. If you check fitness and then check security, the yellow button perform task is what you want to press. You will be using no focus, and I can't imagine you're going to use determination, but maybe you do.
I could use a determination, but
you could use can't walk away.
yeah. Let's use that. I can't walk away from this now. Yeah. So
you spend a point of determination, check the box that says that you're using a point of determination. Phlesc is basically digging down into his very competitive nature. What he starts, he has to finish. Will he manage? So you've at least gained yourself more successes than him just by that, but let's see how we go. Because
Still
you never
rolling 2
know.
dice.
There might be a complication. Wish him luck, guys.
It's not assisting, so I can't ignore it.
Nope. 3
Way!
successes! So, Phlesc puts his arms up inside of the Klingon's arms, and the Klingon counts. What? Which? And they both wrestle, and Phlesc just kind of employs all the knowledge he's accrued of using everything he can. He just comes down to sheer grit and determination. The two of them are basically there wrestling, and then eventually the Klingon just he can't keep up the strain, and Phlesc manages to slam the Klingon's arms down. The Klingon engineer sat across the table roars out laughing, lifts up his flagon of blood wine, and just basically goes, I knew your threading women's garments would have detrimental effects on your arm strength eventually, Ask. And slapped Phlesc across the back. In congratulations. Which hurts, by the way, but you know. Not more than Phlesc's pectorals hurt at this point.
Oh, Hopkins is gonna look at the engineers like, you want to try? How about me and you?
Ooh. He stares at the ridges on Trasa's forehead. A worthy challenge at last, maybe. And he indicates the chair across from him. Have a seat. I guarantee you I'm more than likely better sport than that sorry thing over there, as he indicates his merchant friend who is massaging his own biceps. Very well then, let's see what you've got. And once again, so Liz, you haven't used Foundry before, or have you?
Use a little bit of Foundry.
Okay, so you know to bring up your character sheet, you double left click on your character, and it brings up your character sheet. We've done that before. This is where we actually get to do a task. So you've already ticked fitness, you've already ticked security. Once again, I don't see that you have a focus for Klingon arm wrestling, so we're going to assume...
No, but I do have Never Back Down.
You do have the value Never Back Down, so if you want to apply a determination to this as well, you are free to. So, yes, check off that. So, the yellow button that says Perform Task, if you can click that, it will bring up a smaller secondary window. It asks you a couple of questions. Are you using focus? You are not, so you don't check that box. The next one down is, are you using determination value? Yes, you are, so check that second box. The complication range is the same, and you are rolling 2 dice, so all you need to do now is click the yellow roll dice button, and we'll see how you do, which is 3 successes versus this guy's... He's got no focuses either. Ooh, he rolled 2, so it's a close one. So for a moment there, you're both straining, you're both stretching, and the engineer starts to push Trasa's arms down, but he only gets so far before Trasa then grits her teeth and goes for the kill, the final push, and the engineer's arms begin to relent, and eventually she slams his arms down onto the table. At which point, the merchant slaps Trasa across the back. Ha ha! Vengeance! Been granted vengeance! You and your big mouth. They must breed 'em strong in your house, Commander.
That's more of my aunt's doing than my mom's.
Then I suggest we drink to your aunt and the great Klingon houses. Applaw!
Ah, yes.
So, a bit of time passes, and you guys are enjoying a bit of a chit-chat with the various folks around here. I mean, Garrow is big and musculature and musculature? He is, in fact, one big piece of musculature. No, Garrow is doing his whatever it is he's doing, impressing folks with stories of battles he's been in and how much action he's seen, getting to know folks. Whether or not he's actually on the pole is entirely up to Chris to determine.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
How many dice do I need to roll?
Let's not bother with that. That's going to be well. It depends if he's trying to do the whole "do you want to get a coffee sometime" approach, or is it just a my place or yours approach?
Let's do that.
You're doing the my place or yours approach? All right, so he's going straight for the things. Typical sailor, basically. Okay. In this case, I am definitely going to give you an This is going to be to see how well he reads the reads the room, as it were. So I'm going to. Can I get insight and command from you, please? And I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you what the difficulty is, and I'm actually going to spend a point of threat to up the complication range.
I think Tom's just got to be there. Make sure he's not.
Okay. Let's see.
So
no,
once again, you do not have a focus for this.
No, I don't.
I don't see a focus for smooth talking. Not that
sitting
this is
down
smooth
with my
talking.
back. Very
infectious diseases maybe later. Yeah.
Oh
okay.
my.
So yeah, I think I'll just roll this normally then.
No, he's got social animal.
He does have social animal, which worries me a little bit.
So I guess I could put on value, couldn't I? Yeah.
Well,
I'm gonna use
jeez,
that then.
I didn't realise that dating and arm wrestling was this important to you guys. I mean, damn. But if you want to use determination, then by all means, jeez, go for it.
Okay, rolling dice. 2 dice, yeah.
2 dice, but if you're using determination, then check off a point of determination on your character sheet, and remember to check the box that indicates that you're using a point of determination.
Okay.
Yowza, you guys are making an impression.
Now what should I get the complications?
Well, far be it for me to say. You jammy sword.
Ooh.
Okay, alright, so... Garrow does indeed cut an impressive figure, and he's got that kind of deep, rumbly, sexy voice thing going on that like Idris Elba does have, and so yeah, he whispers something in the girl's ear, and she very much seems to be up for it. So Garrow and this girl might actually disappear for a bit. Just as they're about to exit is when a big group of Klingons actually enter into the what do we call this place? We'll just call it the bar. And you do recognize them as the Klingons that were in the auditorium before. Let's see who's where. Well, whilst National is busy fleecing the other Darbo competitors for all the cash they've got, the tension does kind of rise as this group of Klingons come in, and the Klingon merchant and engineer that Phlesc and Hopkins are sitting next to look over at the Klingons coming in, and one of them mouths, "That's Captain Abul." And the Klingons kind of walk over to an empty set of tables and plonk themselves down. And it doesn't take long before the Klingons notice Hopkins again and start... They're not exactly giving her the stink eye, but once again, it's the whole... You can definitely tell that Trasa can definitely tell they're talking about it.
can I ask the Klingon merchant who Captain Akul is?
Yes.
Clearly recognises him. This must be something famous. I think we've built up a good rapport now.
Yes. I think you've both made a very good impression on the Klingons. So yeah. The merchant, yes.
Captain Akul, yes. He's an interesting one. There are rumbles amongst my kin that Akul is not what you call a traditional Klingon. There are rumblings and whisperings that even though he does have the ear of Chancellor Gowron, that he is more of a... And the Klingon kind of screws up his face at this. Scientist. That he is a warrior. But there's no denying that he does have his fair share of political clout, especially, as I said, with Gowron himself. So it's rumored that Akul actually requested posting to Narendra Station. It would have taken other Klingons being forced to be stationed here to actually take up this mission. But not Akul. No. He seems to have an entirely different opinion as to what constitutes glory and honor to a traditional Klingon. Present company accepted, of course, Commander. Excuse me.
I haven't heard before.
I didn't quite catch that, Elizabeth. Can you say that again, please?
Nothing I haven't quite heard before. I'm used to
It's
certain people looking down on me because of my heritage.
I'm sure. But considering what I just saw you do to that idiot sitting across from me, I think my personal opinion of you has been alleviated somewhat. So, excuse me a second. Awfully dry. Let me see. One of the Klingons from the other table gets up and walks across. And just kind of puts his hands down on the desk. And looks directly at Trasa. I cannot help but notice you forgot to take off your sleepwear. What is a Klingon doing in her pajamas, I wonder? Oh, and look! She's not even wearing Klingon insignia. What an interestingly pathetic little creature you cast.
And yet I could probably wipe the floor with you.
Oh! This little one has claws.
She's gonna look at his insignia, see what rank he is, and Klingon.
Okay, so this
Maybe.
guy... Yeah, this guy is wearing insignia that seems to suggest he's... Let me see. 1, 2... He's kind of the equivalent of second officer. So that suggests something along the lines of he's probably the tactical officer on board the Klingon ship. A
And
little
this
thing
is
like you.
not-
Sorry, I talked over you then. Sorry. Let me shut my mouth.
And this is not, as you call, sleepwear. I am the first officer and commander of Starfleet. I think you should show a little bit of respect, at least for the rank, if not me.
Respect for people who do not even engage in the glory of warfare. Ha! You will earn my respect in the field of battle, little one. But I promise that if we do so, I will be sure to take it easy on you.
The other two Klingons seem to be kind of busily drinking their flagons and just try to turn away from what's going on. Phlesc, however, has basically got this guy leaning over the table pretty much right in his face.
And I've had a little bit too much blood wine, and I want to stand up for my crew member. So I just put my arms out, as if to do the buckle again, staring at him.
He kind of... This Klingon officer kind of casually looks down, slowly, at Phlesk's arms, as Phlesc is kind of like rocking back and forth a little bit here with the fact that the room is starting to spin. And he just looks in Phlesk's face with a look of, really? I wouldn't sully my arms on this little thing, as he points at Hopkins. What makes you think I would want to break something as pathetic as you did, Opulent?
Maybe because you're afraid of losing.
He inhales very loudly at this. The Klingon straightens up.
I was going to say, drunkenly, maybe you're not a real Klingon. And my get my bioscanner to start scanning him.
Right, the other Klingons kind of get up very noisily and walk away. They relocate to another table. They're like, oh, we're just going to we're going to be, oh look, a free table. And they get up and walk away.
There is a massive sigh from Lily from her table. She's been on a data pad all this time.
Studying schematics. Like Hermione Granger being interrupted when reading a book. Which is our other cross-franchise quote of the night. Night? Day? Day.
Okay, I thought I was going to have to step in there.
Why don't we see whether or not you can actually impress me at all? I believe there are fighting pits down in this station. Ordinarily, non-Klingons, and he leans very heavily into this, looking at Hopkins. Non-Klingons are rarely allowed access to the fighting pits, but I'm sure to teach you a lesson, we will forego this little hiccup. And he kind of marches back. He seems to ask his captain something, and Akul is just kind of looking at him with a view of impatience. But some of the other Klingon crew seem to have a look of, yeah, that's our boy, on their faces.
Phlesc,
Yep.
go back to your quarters.
I'm listen to my commanding officer.
I'm not your commanding officer. I'm
Oh, sorry.
rank issue.
Oh yeah, well, they're the same rank, but I think by virtue of being more drunk.
There is not. There is a very unimpressed face on Lily's face. At the moment, she is not impressed.
So we're talking full hands on hips, kind of?
No, she's got her arms crossed. She's not impressed at all.
Oh dearie me. Oh
At
dearie
this
me.
point, Gurkha has noticed the tension, has come down, and with her winnings announces, "Free drinks for all!"
There's a very timid, because everyone else in the bar has obviously stopped and was looking at what's going on. So as soon as free drinks at the bar goes on, there's a very tepid yay, as people are trying their best not to get noticed.
Lily just walked out. She's going to the bar.
But this
She's done.
this guy, sorry, go on, Chris.
Yeah, I think I might have a little bit of a word with Lieutenant Phlesc here, because he just almost started a bar fight here.
To be fair, I don't think it's entirely Phlesc that's an issue here, but yes. The big Klingon actually looks down on Neshlal and says, "Well, I suppose it's the least you could do."
With that arrow kind of, oh, no, he's not. Let's go that way.
Where's he gone?
Garrow disgustedly walks over to the Dabo tables.
Yeah, I'm going back to my date.
Yeah.
Hey, fellas.
Right, sorry, where were we?
Is Dr. Sott seriously sitting straight down in between these others, or is he at least standing up?
Stole his seat.
He's very quietly had a lot to drink in the background, you know, a bit of Dutch courage.
So he's
Making
actually
friends.
sat himself down in a Klingon's chair.
I wouldn't worry about it at all.
And he then gets up and walks away. Okay.
Yeah, there was a lot of, you know, a lot of stern glances. He can read a room.
Guys, I'm working here.
So Garrow's very much a case of, guys, you're cramping my style. God, we haven't been here 5 minutes. I was this close. Right. Okay. So it looks like there might be something about to go down in the Klingon fighting pits. So even though a round of drinks has been brought out for everybody, it seems that the one Klingon at least is keen to go down to the fighting pits and to see what Trasa's made of. So is anybody going down to the Klingon fighting pits as well? Because it looks like Tavish has just stormed out.
Yeah, Lily's gone to her.
Disappointed. Garrow is working his magic.
Yeah, I think I'll be going down to the fighting pit in case of injury and whatnot.
Okie doke.
Oh, there's going to be injury, alright.
We don't know if Lily's just gone to her quarters to pick up a spare set of hyper spanners.
Oh yes, of course. ranged weaponry.
Yeah.
And it seems Neshlel's going back to the Dabo table to fleece more people. I mean, beat more players. Dabo!
Dabo!
The sheer amount of Dabo cries is now starting to get on the bar mistress's nerves, it seems. Incidentally, as Sott goes from the bar towards the door, he does hear the Orion Rainer go, "You know what? For some reason, I seem to recall something about some Tellarite woman or other who owes the Orion Syndicate a good bit of money. Nevertheless." So is Lily Tavish going to the fighting pits as well, or is she going to?
Isn't.
No,
No, she's definitely going back to her quarters.
to see her new quarters, no less.
Yes.
All right, so I'm just taking Phlesc, Hopkins, Dr. Sott, and the other guy to the Klingon training pits. Okie dokie. So let's change the ambience a little bit. So, as you pass down past a certain point through the station, the signage becomes a lot more definitely Klingon. The lighting becomes a lot more harsh, somewhat red in places, and the aesthetic changes visibly from that kind of nice neutral Federation type colours to the more harsh metal gantries and stuff that the Klingons like to employ, the more utilitarian aesthetic. And on the way past a certain point, the group gets stopped by a bunch of Klingons, but the tactical officer of that is basically leading you guys down here, he gives a couple of words, and the guards on the door kind of look back at the three Federation officers, give them the once-over, and just kind of shake their heads and allow you passage. So you eventually go further down into what's ostensibly the Klingon section of the station. And invariably you come to a large set of double doors. And if I can just find the Nope. These massive, almost like docking bay doors shunt open, and you are assailed with the smell of perspiration, the smell of grime and dirt, but this massive open arena yawns out before you. There are Klingons dotted here and there about in the stands, as it were, but more than anything you appear to have two guys on guard almost, two guys across guarding the other entrance. There are two Klingons having a fight in the middle of the arena, and they appear to be getting watched over by another Klingon. This Klingon is definitely female, but she has her back to you currently, and she's just standing there stock still with her arms folded. And she's essentially yelling instructions to these guys. Your balance is not correct. Shift weight to your back leg so that you float. No, you fool! Do not open your guard like that. You are giving him license to stab you in the liver. And such things. Very helpful tips and tricks. As your Klingon friend marches up, he is stopped by one of the security guys, essentially. And he basically asks, "What is your what is your purpose here?" "I am here to teach this Jadok a little lesson in what real Klingons look and fight like." The Klingon seems slightly unimpressed and just says, "Lady Jadok determines who fights and when. We will do so on her orders only." Now, Trasa. You've heard that name before. And as the woman hears her name mentioned, she turns around. And for those who are looking, Lieutenant Phlesc and Dr. Sott, well, at first, it's a Klingon woman, so you see what you expect to see. The cranial ridges, the long black hair, the Klingon uniform. But she also has a very well-decorated sash across her, with her Klingon, with her family house crest very prominent. But she does have a large number of other like medals and awards, all of which are very severe and angular, suggesting something more akin to like battle honors and whatnot. But the more you look, the more you realize there is a very, and I'm not just talking the cranial ridges, a very definite resemblance. Lady Jadok marches over and basically confronts this fellow, the other Klingon. "I have important training going on here. What is the meaning of this interruption?" The security officer piles in. "Forgiveness, lady, but this one apparently wishes to challenge that one," and he points to Trasa, "to a contest." Lady Jadok looks the Klingon up and down, looks Trasa up and down. "Very well then," she says, stepping back. "You two, gutless targs, get yourselves off of my battle arena. I want to see an actual contest." So these guys kind of sheepishly just kind of stand off to one side. "Very well," she says. "The contestants may now enter the arena." The Klingon just kind of brazenly walks forward, but as Trasa walks past Lady Jadok, the lady is definitely watching her very closely. "Fists and feet, empty-handed techniques only. I don't want the first day of your visitation here upon this station to be one where I have to have you both carted off to the infirmary, if not the morgue. Understood?" The other Klingon just kind of stands there, cracking his knuckles, rolling his shoulders, looking at Trasa.
Oh, this is gonna be fun.
You may begin when you are ready. So, essentially, this is going to be a series of very similar contests. This is going to be basically hand-to-hand combat, which is determined by daring plus security. Now, the thing with hand-to-hand combat, as some of us have already found out, is that it's actually very risky. So we won't bother with anything like initiative, because it's hand-to-hand combat is very much a back and forth. Someone will begin, and the other guy will follow. Now, as a rule, players go first, so Trasa, Commander Hopkins, gets to do the opening salvo. So a daring and security check will be required. You have negotiation, interrogation, hand phases, tactical linguistics, and inspiration. No real focuses that seem to be focused on hand-to-hand combat, so you don't get to add a focus, but you can make a roll of daring versus daring and security versus the Klingons' daring and security. Ooh, okay. Time for a fight. So, the arena kind of explodes and a bit loudly as there's interest very much on what is going on. So, Trasa opens up with a volley of punches, and the Klingon tactical officer just kind of stands there and takes it, but then he returns. He bats away Trasa's attacks, grabs her and headbutts her right in the face, which means he does an unarmed bit of damage. He causes 3 successes with 1 effect. So those 3 successes will be taken out of Trasa's stress track. So, Elizabeth, if you can open up your character sheet and go down 3. The effect that he rolled also means that it includes a knockdown, so the headbutt actually floors Trasa so that she lands prone upon the floor. So she swung, he blocked, he then catches her and headbutts her, and she falls to the ground. The Klingon just kind of stands there laughing. Ha! On your back where you belong, I see. And he just motions for Trasa to get up. So this time...
Oh, she'll get up.
No, she'll get up, I'm sure she will. So this time it's his turn to attack back. So this is once again a contested thing, so he gets to do the same thing, daring and security. He is going for another grapple, a grab, so he's going to try and physically restrain Trasa. So you get to roll... Oh, I got 2 successes. So you get to roll daring and security as well. Unless we can... Well... Let's see how well you do. 1 success again, so unfortunately he does get the better of the situation. So he's using his physical size, his strength, to basically slap Trasa in a bear hug, and just stands there, just hefts her clean off the floor. And doesn't even bother to apply any damage. He's just there watching Trasa wriggle. I knew you were weak. At which point, from just up the arena, the back square, as it were, Lady Jadark calls out, "You've been in this situation before, you know how to get out of it." So, I would like Liz, once again, to give me a daring and security check. This time, you have been given leave to use a point of determination, representing death before dishonor.
She definitely will.
And this is granting you also an advantage, and I am going to put this in here. Text will be pretty much what Lady Dark just said. So basically, Lady Jadark is giving you this advantage, which might make this easier, or at least drop the difficulty somewhat. So, you now have access to justification for using a point of determination. This guy is an opposed roll. Let's see how much I get. So I don't roll so great that time, only one success, so let's see what you get. Ooh, 4 successes! And the advantage, which means that that guy's 1 success gets eliminated down to 0 successes, which means you get 4 over and above what you needed, not only to escape, but to do something else with. So, what you can now do, if you want, is to either bank those 4 successes to the momentum pool, or pile those extra successes into doing additional damage, or a bit of 1-for-1. You can maybe give some to the momentum pool and keep some to do extra damage, whatever you want to do.
I think I'm going to put 2 to momentum and then the other ones for extra damage.
Excellent. Okay, so I put those 2 in the momentum pool, so everyone's got momentum, that momentum now in the pool. If I can get you to roll unarmed strike damage, you do that by opening that. You got it. Ooh, lots! And you get to roll an additional 2 dice. So you can do that by opening your character sheet, going to the red perform challenge button. It'll ask you how many extra number of dice. You get to roll 2 extra ones. Roll 2 extra dice. Nothing. Okay, so it goes back entirely off of what you got there, which was 6 and 3 effects. One of those effects can be used to break the guy's grapple. The other will be to basically knock him on his butt. And you also do 6. Now, these guys have got Brat Law, which means they are resistant to non-lethal attacks. So that takes that off by 4, which, by 2 rather, so that knocks him down by 4. So, yes, Trasa basically goes underneath, puts her fingers basically underneath the guy's rib cage and digs in, which of course makes his abdomen spasm in pain, and he releases his grip. This allows Trasa to slip in and basically knock him on his ass. As the Klingon gets put very firmly onto the floor.
Now it looks like you're on your back, where you belong.
The Klingon snarls. Alright then, he gets slowly up, watching you warily, watching Trasa warily to see if she attacks him while he's down.
Oh no, she'll let him get up, since he let her get up.
So he's going to go for 1 more attack. This one is an out-and-out. He's balled up his fists. He's going to go in swinging. So this is going to be another daring and security with a focus on hand-to-hand combat. So this is what you're up against. 2 successes. Gets knocked down to 1 success because of the advantage that Lady Dark has created for Trasa. So, unless you want to change your tactics or do anything else, it's basically time to whoop the Klingon's ass. Ooh, very good.
Ooh.
So you got 1 over what was needed. You could pile that in for extra damage if you want. You can also spend a point of momentum if you wish to add another point of damage if you want, or another damage dice. Entirely up to you.
I think I'm going to add a little bit extra damage.
Okie dokie. So that's the regular. 4 successes, not bad at all. And how many extras are we going for? 1. Alright then. Didn't add anything, but you still got the 2 effects and 4 successes. So, why am I opening yours? I don't need to open yours, it's his! So, yep, Trasa meets this guy's volley of swings, wild swings and punches, but she keeps her guard in tight. He's a few blocks, sees the opening, and basically smashes him on the chin, which knocks him silly, allowing her to slip in and sweep his legs out from underneath him, and he lands with a crash back on the floor again. At which point Lady Jadark steps forward and goes, "I have seen enough. This contest is over." The Klingon grudgingly gets to his feet and just stares daggers at Trasa for a bit before he basically straightens his uniform, wipes the blood from his chin, and just kind of storms off. Lady Jadark walks up to Trasa and just squares up in front of her, looks her up and down, holds Trasa's chin in her hand, and then turns her face to one side to inspect the headbutt bruise she's now been given. You've had worse before, niece. You will overcome this injury just as easily.
Definitely might have worse. Your training is a lot more intense than he was.
Indeed. The fact that you probably allowed him to get those forward shots. Next time, though, remember to lead with your forward leg. His groin was wide open the entire time. He was basically trying to outman you and failed miserably.
I will keep that in mind.
Well, if you'll excuse me, niece, I need to keep training these plodding patats so that they actually know how to fight. Maybe under consideration, I might have to order that one that you just beat to take some training lessons with me also. Perhaps by the end of a few years, he might actually be able to fight. I expect you to attend daily training lessons whilst you are posted here, of course.
Of course. You just might need to let the guards know so they don't keep stopping me.
No one shall bar your entry from here on. I shall see to it. Honor to our house, niece.
Honor to our house.
You may go. I don't remember telling you two that I was done with your training. Get back up here, she yells to the two Klingons who, very quickly, jump back to training. Yes, Sot and Phlesc can come back down from where they were watching. Sot may have brought popcorn, I don't know. But, yes, Trasa's head wound is mostly superficial. It was a glancing blow, just, broke the skin a little bit. It's nothing major as such. Like all stress-related damage as such, the stress track refills at the end of the encounter, so you're all good. Well, with that little aside done, let's see where we can't go next. Just going to basically take us back to the bar. But what you do notice is that as soon as you proceed to doors that are barred by the Klingons, they look down at Trasa's knife and see the insignia on it and very quickly step aside. So, yes. The wounded Klingon makes his way, has obviously made his way back to the bar and is just sitting there muttering to himself along with his fellows, but it appears he's being mocked quite viciously now by his fellows. So, is there anything more you guys want to do? I mean, Neshlal is now probably close to getting thrown out. She's won so many strips of latinum on Darbo.
Broken the bank?
I suppose now that I've sobered up after watching a fight, just finding out what Reyna was saying earlier. about the someone owing someone money.
Right. Yeah, Rayner just go as he notices Neshlo's coming back to the bar. I'm sure it's nothing. It's just, guy in my position hears things about, Tellarite, had a beef with Starfleet, left Starfleet, pretty good Darbo player, may have crossed a member or two of the Orion Syndicate. But I'm sure it can't be her. I mean, how many other Tellarites do you know are that good at Darbo and used to be in Starfleet? I'm sure it's nothing. He is kind of looking over at Neshla with an expectant look in his eyes.
Who are you talking about?
I don't know. I have no idea. And that's kind of the most that Phlesc gets out of, or Sot gets out of. Well, there we are. I've got people's names wrong. That's -1 threat. I always make it a point, if I get characters' names wrong, then I use a point of threat. Forces me to remember. Speaking of Phlesc, for some reason his name is not going away. So there we are. So, do you guys have anything else that you want to do whilst you are here? Any other business, any other questions you want to ask, things you want to look around for, any stuff before you basically have to go to bed and get your next mission briefing?
I'm
Trasa, she's going to buy Klingon blood wine for the tactical officer for the fight.
Ah, the concession prize. Nice. Mark, what were you about to say?
Oh no, I said nothing more that I wanted to do.
Right, cool. Yeah, I think by this point, Phlesc is probably nursing a hangover because blood wine's pretty hench stuff to drink. I mean, Phlesc is probably impressed a lot of those Klingons, and as such word will get around that this Denobulin just sat down and with a flagon of Klingon blood wine and didn't immediately pass out, or didn't retch so violently that he threw up his lunch. Because, the whole deal with blood wine is, A, it's ridiculously strong, and B, it tastes like blood, so, your natural reaction is to gag and throw it up. So, Phlesc has now got a bit of a, how should we say, especially since he won the arm wrestling contest too, he's got a reputation building now, so who knows what that'll yield later on.
Good cultural exchange.
Well, yeah. Well, as for Trasa Hopkins, well, there's now people are starting to talk in a different way. It's like, wait a minute, she's Lady Dark's niece? And there's now a definite, as time goes on now, the Klingons will be starting to move out of Trasa's way if they think that they're in her way. It's very much a case of, oh shit, it's her. Pardon my language, but that's the approach, the change in attitude that will happen very quickly as word gets around.
Come on, you're not Ensign Tilly.
You're not Killy Tilly, no. But so, unless there's anything else anybody else wants to do, everyone can enjoy a drink, or maybe just do the synthahol stuff, because some of you have got hurting heads, or will have hurting heads by the morning.
Yeah, prune juice for me.
More Klingon blood wine for me.
Zargo, the bar mistress, just kind of mouths to herself, prune juice? What the hell is prune juice? Who the hell drinks prune juice? Anyways. So, eventually, Garrow disappears off with his, friend.
I forgot about that.
Tavish will, spend most of the rest of her time in her quarters anyway, setting things up how she likes it, which will probably mean that a An entire workbench will probably get replicated inside of her quarters. And the place will become a filthy mess strewn with gadgets and open pieces of tech within the space of a few hours.
No. It
No?
is going to... No. It looks very, very livable. Like it's meant for 3 people.
So she's enjoying her space, is basically what you're saying.
Yeah.
Cool beans. No doubt Neshla spends most of the night, when everybody's gone home, still in the bar, maybe at the Dabo table, admiring the male models. Hell, with the amount of hell, with the amount of Latinum strips that that Neshla's managed to win, she might be able to pay for more. Who knows? Nevertheless, the next morning, you do eventually. Folks eventually do make their way back to their individual quarters, and whether they have hangovers the next morning or whether they find themselves in somebody else's quarters the next morning, I leave entirely up to you guys to determine. However, yes, go on, sorry.
I was going to say, Tavish is going to be surprisingly early to this morning briefing.
Yeah.
Like, she's had a really good night's sleep and has not been she's hardly drank at all.
Coffee, black. Everyone else is stumbling out of their apartments. I think Phlesc has maybe got... sorry, I interrupted somebody there, go on.
Hopkins will show up a little early, more or less. Not so much a hangover, but, a slight one.
Right. No problem. So, eventually folks make their way to the auditorium. Some are earlier than others. Captain Sobek, of course, is already there, waiting for even the earliest person. Being a Vulcan, very much on punctuality. So when you enter the auditorium proper, you do find that your crew is the only one there, because yours was the one specifically asked to turn up first. So eventually Admiral Hebert and her assistant, Lieutenant Sharissa, arrive. Admiral doesn't get on the podium, she just presents herself before you guys with a data pad in hand. So let's take this back to the auditoriums. Whoops-a-daisy, I turned it off rather than turned it on. So, Admiral Hebert presents herself. Well, thank you very much for coming, everybody. This is going to be your first official mission. So, give me just a second, actually. I just realized I have neglected to calculate what the stardate is. So if we were 48253.1, then we are going to be looking at a day later, which is 2.74. So there we go. So yes, the Admiral addresses you all. As of this morning, stardate 48255.1, I am ordering you to proceed to the planet of Ashgrave IV, which also goes under the name of Footfall, on what I hope will turn out to be a minor diplomatic mission. The planet itself is considered neutral, even though it is technically in Federation space, and it does apparently attract many pilgrims from several different species and faiths. They say it is a holy place, so Starfleet has decided that a light touch and open access was the best way to not cause any offense. But apparently they've been having trouble there recently. Your orders are to find and apprehend a militant group that has committed acts of vandalism on board on the surface of Ashgrave IV. Not something that usually requires a starship, but with the place a potential tinderbox, I'm not surprised that the Federation governor is being very careful. If we're lucky, the presence of a starship will remind this militant group that they need to calm down. Otherwise, we could be walking a very fine diplomatic line. Hopefully, the rumors of the place will inspire calm and tranquility. That the place inspires calm and tranquility are not unfounded, and you can bring an end to the situation as quickly and peacefully as possible. Questions? And I will allow you to ask any questions that come to mind. If you have none, then... Nope, okay. Very well then, if there are no questions, then I expect you to set out immediately. Ashgrave IV is a good 12 hours from here, but seeing as you are flying an Intrepid class, you should make the time pretty easily. Disembark as soon as you are fit and able to do so. The general call for your crew to board ship has already been put out. I expect the Combs to be ready to go within the next 2 hours. That is all. You are dismissed. So. We find ourselves back on the bridge of the ship, but this time, commanding officer's seat is not empty. Ha ha. So, naturally, there's a bit of familiarizing yourself with what needs to happen. Trasa Hopkins, of course, has already been briefed that, she's being stationed as first officer aboard a brand new Intrepid starship. And Trasa's probably gone over the schematics of the thing numerous times, but... oh, hang on, I've just noticed that Elizabeth is still stuck in the auditorium map and hasn't moved over to the bridge quite yet. Nope, there we go. Lovely. But it's one thing to study the schematics, it's another thing to actually be there. And, of course, there's nothing more... Well, I wouldn't say nerve-wracking, but there's a certain tingle you no doubt get from being able to finally sit in one of the command chairs. So, you take the time, your crew are... you don't have any slackers amidst your crew, as far as I'm aware, so you are able to make good time at the boarding call for the crew. Everybody's aboard, the engines are primed and ready, and you are given permission to leave Narendra Station and proceed to Ashgrave IV.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Was there anything wrong with the ship? With the engine? Anything like that?
Tavish found no evidence of any greasy dock worker handprints on any of the pristine surfaces of the engine room. The place has basically been given a good going over. There's no evidence that anything was tampered with. There are logs that systems were checked and were found to be working fine, so the docking crew basically had very little to do. Except do the usual stuff, like check that your supplies of deuterium and anti-deuterium are all full, that your replicator gel stocks are all full, the neural gel packs for the computer conduits have all been given a good thorough going over. Other than that, the ship appears to be in perfect working order, just like you left it. There might be the tiniest fingerprint on the warp core, though.
Oh, I'm going to have to get my hyperspanner back out when I get back.
The rest of the engineering crew know this is a warning sign, so they all duck and cover.
Oh no, she hasn't got it out. She's just made a note on her data pad.
Whew! The engineering crew, relax.
Get back to work.
Yes, sir. So, yes, as has been noted before, everybody are in the places that they should be. Dr. Sott doesn't necessarily need to be on the bridge, but if he ever is caught at the bridge, one of these two consoles here are easily programmed to display whatever systems need to be displayed. So were Dr. Sott to come to the bridge, he'd probably find himself here. We have here Ensign Acoz, who was one of our first created supporting characters. So I keep him here, his token here on the bridge to remind us all that he is available to be used if anybody wants it. He was created as a security character, so he has the appropriate supporting character stats. He is not one person's to use, he is everybody's to use. So if somebody is not going down on this away mission, then somebody can, of course, either take the part of Ensign Acoz, or we can invent an entirely new supporting character and draw from the pool that we have available to us to take with us. So, there are no mishaps or anything that happens during the flight to Ashgrave IV, so let me just find... Whoops-a-daisy, I missed it. Footfall. Here we go. So, it basically comes down to you have now made... hang on a second. Where's coming out of warp? Exit warp, there we are. So the Ashgrave system is pretty much a standard yellow star type of system. The fourth planet is the one that is the habitable one, but interestingly enough, considering that Ashgrave IV is this apparent mecca or such a place for those with a spiritual bent, the planet itself is actually pretty barren. So anybody who wants to can do a quick checkup on what Ashgrave IV is and its history. If you do, then you get the following information. Ashgrave IV was discovered by Terran explorers in the early part of the 21st century. Woohoo! They recorded the place had little in terms of mineral or agricultural worth. However, upon completing their survey, a high proportion of the exploratory team seemed to have a religious experience. Many became adherents of one religion or another soon after. This inspired others to visit, and many reports of religious experiences were recorded. Several different species began to make claims on the planet, and so the Federation decided to retain control, but treat it as a neutral colony. They would operate a small administrative colony and allow any species to visit for the purposes of religious observance. So, yes, the planet is habitable, but has little mineral or agricultural worth, and so it looks like it's possibly rough living down there. There's evidence of a primary colony, and there are lots of little habitation plots here and there on the outskirts of the colony main. And that seems to be where the majority of folks seem to spread out. But for the most part, the terrain is pretty barren and inhospitable. Pulling into orbit, Captain Sobek basically turns to his first officer. Well, number one, this is an away mission, and as such, you have free reign. I would like you to take an away team down to the surface and attempt to apprehend or dissuade this rogue militant group. As per orders.
Understood.
So, who would you like to take with you, basically, on this away mission? And it's basically a case of who wants to volunteer for it, too. Now, I would make the suggestion that, especially because it's a potential security situation, you definitely need Garrow to go, because chief of security and all that, his responsibility is going to be making sure of the safety of the away team. So I'm going to put away team members in the center of the screen. It's basically finding justification for your characters to go, and if you can't find one, then we can maybe find you a supporting character to play instead. So, Commander Hopkins is obviously being tasked with leading the away team. Lieutenant Garrow, being head of security, should really go. Who wants to go along as well?
I want to go along, but before we would go, I'd want to do, say, a more detailed scan of the area that we're going to be landing to, because I do have sort of focuses in replicators and transporters to make sure we get there safe.
Cool.
But it'd be good to know what we're going into, and if there's anything that's newly developed that we're not necessarily aware of.
Okay, so the colony main has a starport, which means it has a surface to orbit transporter system already set up, but it also has a docking port that's big enough to have shuttles land. It looks like they've got room for about three shuttles in order to service the entire colony. The majority of the colony itself is made up of a couple of residential blocks here and there, but for the most part is taken up with shops that sell what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say novelty items, but that's not quite what I'm going for. No, that's the best word I can think of. So they sell novelty items and religious trinkets and stuff like that. So
if they've got a gift shop, I definitely want to go down.
Well, that's
cultural
it.
studies and all
that's
that.
That's it. Yeah, they have a gift shop essentially. They have lots of gift shops. That seems to be their main ply in trade. You never know. You could always ask Neshlel for some extra cash, given that she's got plenty spare.
I can go.
Yeah, seeing as it's a Baron.
What were you about to say, Mark? Sorry.
Oh no, I was going to say it was a justification for going down. I do have values in negotiation, but also it's kind of a barren wasteland. I'd like to look in to see if there really was nothing of metallurgy significance, and offer my abilities in power and life support systems if they need it. Maybe trade.
Okay.
Trade skills if needed.
I see. Very good, very good. Anybody else?
Hopkins will check the area that they're supposed to go to. Is there a force field or anything that may need to be taken down to get access to where this militaristic group is?
The place itself suggests that there's very little to no military presence whatsoever. The closest you get is the Federation Councillor's office. Am I getting that right? Federation Governor, pardon me, that was the title. So there appears to be one office with the Federation Governor, but there's not really much of a security force present on the planet or the colony at all. There's a small peacekeeping force. And as such, they seem to spend the vast majority of their time in their office. But there are no, there do not appear to be any highly secure areas, nothing with big blast doors that have locks or force fields to shield them. Nothing like that suggests itself on the colony. Okay. So, Dave, Tavish is going as well?
If we're going down in a
yes.
in a shuttle,
right.
then you're going to need the pilot. So,
of course, Lily. I like to dive straight at the ground and then pull up at the last minute. Tavish, yes,
yes, and also, she's an engineer,
so she can fix whatever she broke on the crash down. Right? Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right then. So whether or not that makes less people volunteer for this remains to be seen. But we got a nice.
Everybody here's already been in a all with Tavish already, except for. Actually, I don't think Phlesc has.
No, so
Nor do
both
I-
Commander Trasa,
Oh.
Hopkins, and Lieutenant Phlesc have not actually had the, and I use the term loosely, pleasure of being in a shuttle that's piloted by Lieutenant Tavish before. No, I don't believe they have.
He'll go, it's fine. You're safe. I don't know what these other people are complaining about.
It's not so much the other people, it's the voice in your head. But yes, okay. Go on.
Well, looks like the waiting is set. Let's head to the shuttle.
Alright, if we're taking a shuttle down, then that's all kinds of groovy, so that means that, yes, you find yourselves one of the... I think you've got like 2 shuttles available to this ship, because it's actually quite small, so let's have a look. The Combs have got one Type 9 shuttle and one Type 6. The Type 9 is one of the more sleek ones, but it doesn't have that much passenger space. The Type 6 has got more passenger space, so more room to be thrown around in. So, let me just at least show you what it is you're going to deal with in a second. So if I can take you guys, and where is the shuttlecraft? Here we go. Most of the guys are there already. I'm just going to move some around. So Tavish is going to be the pilot. So that means you can sit there. First officer, new first officer gets first dibs at co-piloting, I suppose. So let's boost you all to here. Right, so these are the Type 6s, slightly updated because you're in a... Oh, hang on, we still don't have Elizabeth quite yet. Nevertheless, like I stated, the Type 6 is kind of a throwback to the old next generation ones, slightly less boxy, but with still with room in the back for about 3 to 4 extra passengers. So you are given the ability to pilot the shuttle down to the surface, which means that somebody is going to have to make me a check. The difficulty is going to essentially be 0. So what we're going to do is... Where's the Type 6? I'm going to introduce this little token to represent the shuttlecraft when we need to access its character sheet in order to assist with the descent down. So, like I said, the difficulty for this piloting task is going to be 0. However, seeing as we've got a certain somebody at the helm, I'm going to increase the critical threat range, not the threat range, pardon me, the complication range.
I have no idea how I would help, but I'm here to help if we need to get rid of a complication.
So if Phlesc can maybe aid with the con, I don't know if our first officer wants to hand control, or rather, let me actually use my words. I put my wrong teeth in today, sorry. Yeah. There we go.
I'll be on a monitor helping.
Shouting encouragement from the back where they've got seatbelts. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, Garrelly C2, transporter room. Prepare for emergency beam out on my mark.
There is just a stare at all of you at this moment in time.
It's like you don't trust me. So, can I please get a control and... Actually, is it going to be control with Tavish, or is it going to be daring?
Daring.
It's going to be daring, isn't it?
Daring
and con with a focus in shuttle racer, aided by our new first officer, who gets to aid using control and con. So the way we do this, if you've not done it before, is when we aid, when you press the perform task button, rather than rolling 2 dice, I need you to roll 1. So when you click the perform task yellow button, you get that secondary window. There should be a slider for number of dice in pool. If you can rack the slider down to just 1 dice in pool, I don't think any of your focuses count, so it's just going to be rolling 1 dice if you can, please, Elizabeth. So this, whenever you aid another in a roll, you only roll 1 dice, and that was 1 success too, top. We can also get the shuttle to aid, so I'm going to stick the shuttle briefly here, because the shuttle can, or should, be able to deal some additional assistance. Let me just make sure you've got access to it. You should, yes. So, let's think. Who hasn't rolled in a goodly long bit? Who wants to roll? So it's either going to be... Garrow hasn't rolled. Actually, no, he has. Because he was chatting up the... So, really... Yeah, Connie, you haven't actually rolled for anything, because you didn't need to roll for Darbo. You've already got it in there.
I was about to say, this is probably not the best time for my luck to run out.
No, so, Connie and Chris, neither of you have really rolled yet, so if you're alright with Connie rolling for the shuttle.
See?
Chris?
Yeah, sure thing. Sorry, I was muted.
That's fine. We'll try and give you a choice next time.
Yeah, no worries.
So, if Connie, you can open up the character sheet for the shuttle, I'm going to be asking you to contribute assistance using... I'm going to go, say, with structure and con, if you please. Or engines and con as well, if you want to do that.
Structure. Okay, and just that.
And just 1 dice, if you can, please, because the ship is aiding. So the autopilot or the pilot aid systems on the shuttle are going to lend some assistance to performing this shuttle task. No successes. Okay. So the shuttle controls weren't that much of a help. So now it comes down to the wire. So our first officer has got some good co-piloting going on in there, so she's able to do some good. Now it's down to the pilot herself. Tavish using daring and con with a focus on, and please up the complication range to 2.
Up to 2.
Up to 2, yes. And roll 2 dice. Complication range 2, please. Here we go. Whoa! So the good news is no complications, and the extra good news is you got 3 successes, which means you got 3 additional points of momentum. Nice. So the momentum pool is nearly full.
Transporter room, stand down.
So even though Lieutenant Tavish took you on a very, very fast descent to the planet's surface, it wasn't a bumpy ride, and she pulled up with enough time to just slow down the descent and park the shuttle properly and carefully and precisely on the pad.
Don't know what you all lot are worrying about.
The return trip.
Nice.
I'll tell you what, you can pilot next time.
Okay. So, as soon as you exit the shuttle and you step out onto the surface of Ashgrave IV, you are all very struck all of a sudden. The moment that you step out onto the planet's surface, you are struck by this overwhelming feeling of divine presence. You can't describe it any other way. You just all, no matter your character's individual beliefs on spirituality, each and every one of you feel as if this place has been divinely touched. There's this kind of just blanket feeling of grace that just surrounds everything and everyone. I mean, Garrow can feel the call of the prophets. Hopkins herself feels the call of her ancestors and the spirits of, the spirits gone past of her house. That kind of thing. Even more scientifically minded, skeptical, the minds amongst you are unable to unable to describe what it is you're feeling, but it's a definite case of whoa. So, from the word go, there is a definite feeling of that kind of, like I said, that peace, that grace, that overwhelming feeling of this place having been touched by something divine. Aside from that, there are innumerate people bustling to and from the shuttle pad, where occasional shuttles are coming in, seemingly just by bringing folks from some of the more distant outlying colonies. Others are shuttles from ships who are bringing, I want to say, pilgrims down, because there are a lot of essentially tourists as they are disembarking from their own vessels and whatnot. You see them have this sudden look upon their face of awe and peace. So, with that in mind, the area is also full of all manner of shops, selling religious trinkets and paraphernalia of every type of denomination. The people overall seem calm and happy. And as you walk amongst them, several of these people do offer various greetings and blessings, and even offer you some tokens of faith here and there. There are a variety of different species here too, more than you probably would have thought possible. Some that traditionally don't get on well, but standing here looking at them all going past, you can see them all interacting quite harmoniously. Also,
Can I use the
go on. Yes.
experimental scanner on myself just to see what's happening? See if you can give me some
Sure.
insight as to what's changed now that I'm feeling this way before I start scanning random people.
Yeah, so Phlesk's little bioscanner helper is just gives you a scan and gives you the green. A more detailed scan would suggest that certain parts of Phlesk's brain have lit up, mostly those to do with, dopamine levels have gone up. But other than that, there's a very definite sense of calm. So there's nothing obviously wrong. However, you can, if you really, really want, and this is probably something that's going to be worth Dr. Sott getting involved in. So Chris finally gets his attempt at a role.
Yes,
This
by
is
all
going to
means.
be an attempt at looking. If you're going to be looking at biology, then this is going to be actually, no. I'm going to say this is going to be an insight and medicine check for both Phlesc and Dr. Sott. So who takes the lead on this is entirely up to you guys. One of you is going to be the lead and the other is going to be assisting. So one of you will be rolling 2, one of you will be rolling 1 dice, respectively.
Well, I've got 10 insight, 3 medicine, and the parent figure trait doesn't matter if I tempt it or assist.
Okay,
I'm
I've got
assuming
11 insight and 5 medicine. Shall I take the...
You take the lead.
point?
Yeah, you
Sounds
take
like
point,
Dr.
I'll
Sott
assist.
would be better on that, yeah, nice.
Cool.
Nice. So 2 dice from Dr. Sott, 1 dice from Lieutenant Phlesc, if you please. Okay, so 2 successes overall. Alright then. Giving folks a bit of a scan. Yeah, so you find evidence that there are slight elevations in dopamine level, which would make sense because your brains are reacting to this place that you can see with awe and wonder. If there's anything unusual going on that is creating this feeling, it's nothing biological that you can find. Scanning yourselves, scanning your fellow away team members, even trying to surreptitiously scan some of the people going past, you don't really get that impression of there being much wrong with them. Their bodies are working just as well as their bodies should be working.
As the science officer, then, I would also like to scan. I would
Okay.
like to scan the environment.
Okay. This can be a control plus science check. No real focus that I can apply for you here, so this is just going to be using the tricorder and seeing what you come up with, basically. I don't know if... never mind. 19, that was close, but so far I haven't seen any complications today, so well done on that. Alright, again, Neshlol can find no obvious cause as to why these people are acting this way. I mean, you scan the place for strange energy signatures, any kind of airborne mineral or gas or some kind of bacteria or virus or anything like that. I mean, the bacteria and the virus thing has already been done by Phlesc and Sot, but as far as anything else that could fall under this, you give your tricorder a good wave, and you're not really coming back with anything concrete. Everything here seems to be fine. I mean, the barren landscape around you has a breathtaking view. Something about the place feels grand, humbling, and inspiring all at the same time. The wide open canyons and spaces and huge clear sky make it look as if you can see the whole universe. So, this place has just this overwhelming sensation to it. So, without any clear medical or scientific explanation to why you suddenly feel this way, the only thing that you need to do now is to maybe proceed into the colony proper. And I've just looked at the time and realized, holy cow, we're just about out of time. Dang, that flew by. Holy heck. So I'm afraid we're going to have to stop things there because anything else risks going into overtime. So yes, you have just... However, that was great. I did enjoy that immensely. So we've now established that Narendra Station, Starbase 364, is your new base of operations. You now live there. It is a joint Klingon Federation thing, and yes, you've already made quite an impression amongst the locals, to say the least. Further adventures in the Shackleton Expanse will be launched from Starbase 364 for here on in, and being an Intrepid-class ship means that you are very well suited to being the first ship to venture into this unknown frontier. And speaking of unknown frontiers, there's something definitely weird going on Ashgrave IV, but to discover what exactly is going on and get to the bottom of it, unfortunately we're going to have to wait till next week. So, just to confirm, next week it appears to be the 2nd of July. I know our esteemed chief engineer will not be with us, sadly.
No.
So, you might have to tune in next time. Seems like a good place to found a new religion. All hail the great magnet, says suitable substrate. Well... If there's any place to start a weird, or not so weird religion, it seems that yes, Ashgrave IV might be the best place to start. So yeah, come up with something wacky next week and see if people will get a following maybe, I don't know. The Church of Dabo or something.
Oh, I was going to say the Church of Dave.
The Church of Dave, well, we know the Republic of Dave has many, many, many members, so you never know. That the Church of Dave might be the next logical step.
Yeah, I think so.
Although it will have the Church of Bob to contend with, but that's neither here nor there. I don't see the Church of Bob here on Ashgrave IV, do you?
No, I don't.
Exactly. As far as everybody else, hopefully the rest of you guys are still available for next week?
Yeah, I think so.
Yep.
Yep.
Should be, yeah.
Awesome sauce. So, yes, that was your introduction to life on Narendra Station. And what an introduction it was. And we have just gotten started now proper with the episode, which is episode 3 called Footfall. So we'll continue that next week, starting at the same time, 1 p.m. for me and my fellows here, whatever the time is for you guys elsewhere. So for all of you guys who have been watching the stream, thank you very much for tuning in and for participating as well, as usual, suitable substrate. And of course for my guys from the Tuesday lot, who also stuck their oar in every now and then to say whose ship is better. Nevertheless, yes, thank you very much for you guys who tuned in. If you are watching this video on YouTube, then as usual, if you found it entertaining, if you found it as much of a laugh as we did, then please consider hitting the like button. If not for us, then at the very least for all the other guys who do Star Trek Let's Plays, so that we can appease our true Lord and Master, the algorithm. All hail the algorithm. So that ourselves and other guys will also get pushed up the ranks of notice a little bit more. Thank you very much for my intrepid crew, as usual, for making this so entertaining.
Thank you very much.
See
for
you
running.
guys next week.
You.
So, as usual, I'll ask you to do like the Vulcans do, and no, I don't mean challenge people to single combat with a Lirpa. I mean to please practice infinite diversity in infinite combinations, and to also make sure that you all live long and prosper, if I could just get my hand in shot. There we go. Take care of yourselves. These are wild, wacky days these days, so make sure you all look after each other, treat each other well, and we will see you again next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Bye-bye.